Welcome back, everybody. My name is Texas, and you're watching Timmy's Beer Reviews. Today we will be looking at a special one. This is Tiny Dove. So this is a stout from Baba. They don't typically do stouts, which is pretty sweet. So my camera decides it wants to focus. 8.6% ABV, so it's on the lower side, or I guess lighter side of Imperial Stouts, if you want to call it Imperial Stout. German chocolate cake. So I don't know if this is just a rotating series. Honestly, I haven't looked at all the specifics, but my guess is that it's maybe a rotating stout series with different flavors. Yeah, so German chocolate cake. And this guy was from last month, December 16th. So yeah, I think they've done stouts before, but very rarely. I mean, it's always, all the releases are smoothie sours and New England IPAs, yada yada. So they don't do a lot of stouts. Oh, my face is off. Whatever. It is what it is. So let's check it out. I'm excited for this one. I am. No, I definitely. Christ, it's got a lot of carb. Well, maybe. It's got a pretty hefty head to it. I do enjoy stouts, but I kind of have my limits. Typically, they end up getting a little too sweet for me if I'm on a stout kick for a bit. But I've had a lot of IPAs in between, a lot of sours. So anyway, they don't typically do these, and I've always kind of wondered why, because they do the other varieties. They do the other styles so well. I figured their stouts would be super awesome with how intense the smoothie sours are. So I have high expectations for this, but yeah, it pours out pretty dark. It was pretty thick pouring out for 8.6%. I gotta say, usually 8.6%, you don't see that kind of thickness. But we'll get a realistic sense of that on the taste. We'll get a texture profile, but that head poured out pretty hefty at first, but it's dissipated quite quickly. Nice mocha coffee creamer type head to it. Really thinned out, barely anything there left. So let's get the aroma. Interesting. So I think I was expecting a lot of coconut off the bat, and it's not what I'm getting. It's there, but there's a lot of dark chocolate and roasted character to this beer. So, and it's not just dark chocolate, it's cacao nibs. Have you ever bought straight cacao nibs from the store and eaten them like that? It's like a really intense dark chocolate. More so than what you would buy if you bought a dark chocolate bar. Man, it's just got this really big, leathery tobacco roasted aspect to it that's really, reminiscent of traditional Russian imperial stouts that I was not expecting. I expected this to be just straight pastry. Given that that's kind of the hype thing with stouts at the moment, because I really expected a hefty, sugary aroma to it, but that's not what I'm getting. I mean, it's definitely there, but man, that roast and tobacco is massive on this. Wow, not what I was anticipating. So check it out. Cheers. Wow, that is probably the most impressive 8% stout that I've had in a long time. Good lord. Okay, so off the bat, while the aroma doesn't really lead me to a sweeter beer, um, taste profile says much differently. Right off the bat, you really get that more of a pastry stout like vibe to it. does not smell sweet, but it definitely tastes sweet right in the initial punch. Um, a lot of chocolate. That roast and tobacco comes through, but not as intense on the flavor. I guess maybe not as prevalent because of the sugars that come through. And it is pretty thick for 8.6. Like this feels at least like 11 to 12% just on the feel alone. I mean, I'm comparing it to that is interesting. Wow. So I'm this thing needs to be barrel aged. With I'd really like to see this barrel aged with like a heftier base because it feels pretty thick. I mean, I think that's not a bad candidate for barrel aging, but to put this in like if they can achieve the same kind of balance in like a 12% range, that would be pretty impressive. Um, it's pretty thick. I mean, comparatively to like the Ingenious, I'm thinking like Ice Cream Sundays series they just released that are like 8%. This is definitely a lot thicker. Um, feels like a much heftier beer compared to those, and it just has this like it has this really big intensity to it that feels like a really nice character for barrel aging, to where it's got a lot of nice natural sugar to it. It's definitely a sipper. I don't think it's over the top in terms of pastry stout type of kind of a vibe going for it, but putting it in a 12-ounce can was definitely the correct call. I just it's hard for me to do 16 ounces of sweet stouts anymore, to be honest. I think that was the correct can for it. I think if they could perfect this, because it's got like this really nice sweet sugariness to it, it's not overwhelming. However, with the dark chocolate and that tobacco leathery type character to it, it has that like prime barrel aging sort of body for it. So it kind of reminds me of like not specifically Dark Lord, but in that Dark Lord realm where Dark Lord itself is, yeah, it's a bit high in sugars too, but it's got a really big like, traditional Russian Imperial Stout character to it that kind of gives the barrel aging process a lot more of uniqueness. Where if you're gonna just barrel age a really, sweet stout or a really roasty stout, it's good, but I don't think it goes the extra mile to be like an over the top barrel aged stout. So I think this has everything going for it in terms of a flavor profile and an aroma for a barrel aging candidate. So they don't have a barrel aging program, but I think this would be awesome to see barrel aged down the road. So yeah, really awesome stuff. I think this is got to be at least a 4.5. It might be a little bit more than that. Um, yeah, I think I'm probably going like 4.6 or so. It might round up to a 4.75 on tap. I'm not sure yet. I'll give it a little bit, but yeah, Tiny Dove, German chocolate cake. I think the one thing that I kind of was expecting, I guess, is more of coconut, which it doesn't have. That probably would have put it over the top for me on its own. But even without really that coconut presence, it's a fantastic beer. So let's call it 4.5 on here. And yeah, that's it for Tiny Dove German chocolate cake. So as always, cheers. Catch you guys later.